Welcome back. Democrat Andrew Gillum, my guest, the mayor of Tallahassee, and the youngest ever to be elected commissioner in Tallahassee. Now, Mason-Dixon poll came out last week in the race for governor early on, but it shows Gwen Graham, 20% in the Mason-Dixon poll. Phil Levine out of Miami Beach, 17%. Mayor Gillum, 10%. Chris King, the developer out of Orlando, 4%. We're looking to line up and, in fact, have some of these guests coming in the next several weeks, along with Republicans. Undecided, though, 49%. Right. And so what it really speaks to in a state that one of my analysts, Brian Crowley, says this is a purple state where we've seen in elections nationally and statewide, absolutely, it can tilt Republican or Democrat. Absolutely. The 49%. How do you convince that independent voter says, I'm not arch-conservative, I'm not arch-liberal, yeah, I don't describe myself as progressive, sure, I describe myself as just a good old-fashioned Floridian who's trying to figure out, how do I pick? How do you appeal to them? Yeah,
well, I think by my very existence and the experience I've had trying to lead in this state, that my experience here is more like theirs than anybody else running. The truth is I love that poll. It shows that there's great room and opportunity for growth. Levine has spent, what, $4 million or something on television ads, and that 49% is still out there. Gwen Graham is the daughter of a former governor. That's out there.
And Senator.
And Senator. I'm the son of a construction worker and a school bus driver, and the fact that we're being competitive in this race, and I believe we'll win it.
Let's talk sanctuary cities.
Yes.
Highly controversial. We've seen the immigration debate in Washington. You're taking on the House Speaker, Richard Corcoran, in the coming week about sanctuary cities. Many in Florida do not support them. President Trump does not. Governor Rick Scott has made his voice clear on that. Your take on sanctuary cities, and answer the criticism. Some said, oh, he's for a sanctuary state. Mm-hmm. First, answer that criticism.
Well, the first thing is that there are no sanctuary cities in the state of Florida. Not one.
And you did not call for that.
No, and there are no sanctuary counties in the state of Florida.
And you did not call for a sanctuary state.
No, and so, but really what I'm debating the speaker about is a video that he uses to target immigrants and basically portrays all immigrants in this state as being murderers. The image in the video, in my opinion, is beyond the pale. It's probably among some of the worst that we've seen in this state. And I want him to answer to that. As a responsible Speaker of the House, he should not be putting out such incendiary, in my opinion, racist kind of material that portrays immigrants not as the hardworking people that they are, but as murderers who are out to kill our children.
Do you support, West Palm Beach has sued the U.S. to affirm its pro-immigrant welcoming city status. Yeah. Do you support the concept of sanctuary cities?
What I support is being a welcoming community where if you break the law, you'll pay the penalty of breaking the law in that community. But what we will not do is we will not go around asking people to show their papers because of the color of their skin or the language that they may speak.
But if a mayor, any mayor across this state said, I'm not going to work with federal immigration authorities, I'm going to be a sanctuary city and ignore their orders, would you be supportive of that mayor or federal authorities?
I would be in favor of a mayor following the Constitution of the United States, the laws of the state of Florida, and the Constitution of the state of Florida. And not one of them have flown contrary to the rule of law in this case. What we don't do, however, is we've got to stop this race to the bottom. This race to the bottom where we say, because someone looks different or speaks a different language than I do, that we have to be suspect of them. And we got to beg them for their papers and criminalize them off their personhood. That's not who we are as a state, and that certainly isn't who we are as a nation.
Mayor Gillum, I met you first at the forum in Palm Beach County some months ago, asked you then, and I want to give you an opportunity to answer now. Yeah. It has been said by political editors, was flying high, but have had some controversies that have dogged campaign funding to an extent. One of them about using $5,000 in city money, according to reports, to buy software from a Democratic Party vendor and sending emails from your gubernatorial campaign. And it was reported that some of these were coming out of the mayor's office and were of a political nature. You paid the money back, but some people said crossed a line there. What do you say to that critique?
Well, went all the way to the grand jury, and not only did they say did me or anyone in my office did nothing wrong, they validated the use of the email system, which is simply used to say the mayor of the city of Tallahassee is going to be a speaker at the Democratic convention. It was a nothing unfortunate situation. I paid the fee because I did not want it to become a major issue here. And unfortunately, we went through 5 months of the situation where the grand jury said we did absolutely nothing wrong.
Also, Politico Florida. Quote, Gillum not listed, let me emphasize, not listed as subject in FBI affidavit, but political damage may already be done. They're referring to an affidavit involving an alleged pay-for-pay scheme involving a Tallahassee city commissioner. Your response?
Well, I tell you, I'm sad by the situation, and I think it's unfortunate for one of my colleagues. But what I've said all along is if anybody does wrongdoing, we ought to assess it out, and they ought to be held fully accountable for their actions. I took the step as mayor to put every one of the documents that we responded to related to this subpoena request, over 100,000 documents, on a searchable website so that anyone could have access to it. Earlier this week, we learned that it appears that they are zeroing in on one of my colleagues for what appears to be inappropriate and illegal behavior. And while I care deeply for the individual and certainly would wish no harm on him or his family, if he's broken the law, he's got to pay the penalty for what that means. And it's unfortunate because in my 15 years of public service, I've not been, and nobody in my city has been held to account for as much as an ethics violation, let alone something criminal. So I find it unfortunate, but am hopeful that the rule of law will prevail here.
Our remaining minute and a half, you've got a competitive field, as you mentioned. Gwen Graham, dad, Bob Graham, beloved former two-term governor and senator. Phil Levine out of urbanized South Florida, just to name two. Chris King, who we'll have in as our guest very soon, and as I emphasized again, Republicans as well. Closing argument for why people need to start paying attention to 38-year-old Andrew Gillum, mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, in his bid for governor, and how you're going to make life different and better for all Floridians.
That's right. Well, I have to say, more than anything, judge me by my record. I'm sitting here today as the mayor of the fastest growing economy per capita in the state of Florida, Tallahassee. It's the 17th fastest growing economy in the entire state of Florida. We're building and transforming our city into a place where people want to choose to be, with good schools, good early childhood education, a safe community, a community where the quality of life is good and strong. And I believe that that has to exist and should exist all over the state of Florida. The same ladders of opportunity that existed for me, they should exist for every other person. And I know what it means to live and try to survive and thrive in this state, not because I read about it, but because I've lived it. And I believe that it's time for us to have a governor who has lived that experience and is willing to get into Tallahassee and into the governor's mansion and build a table that we can all sit at. As I've always been told, and as I've become fond of saying, if you are not at the table, it means you are likely on the menu. Well, it's time for us to build a table that's inclusive of all people and respects the voices of all Floridians. And that's what you would get me if you allow me to serve as governor of this great state.
Mayor Gillum, the only last question I'll have is we want to guarantee we get you back as a guest as the campaign moves along.
Be my treat.
Mayor Andrew Gillum of Tallahassee joining us here as we begin our gubernatorial interviews for the campaign that is heating up even as we speak. We'll be tuning into the Sanctuary City debate. We thank you for being our guest. And